On the Isthmus of Panama are an indigenous people called the Kuna. They're known for having a lower incidence of heart disease and stroke, lower than any other people in the same region. When we find such differences in people, we wonder if it's nature, something in their DNA, or nurture, something they do or eat. In the case of the Kuna, they drink 5 cups of chocolate a day. Today we'll have a conversation about chocolate and discuss the chocolate con. My name is Dr. Terry Simpson, and this is Culinary Medicine, where we sort out the crazy from credible about food, from its source to its effect on your body, busting myths and showing evidence where food can be medicine. Who doesn't want to believe that chocolate is healthy? It's as delicious as a beverage or a bar. It tops vanilla ice cream like no other topping. Well, I do like balsamic vinegar glaze as well, but when it comes to time of trouble, who will comfort you? Not Mother Mary, but chocolate. Often when we look at foods, we try to find a society where that particular food is featured. In this case, we have the Kuna Indians of Central America. And it is true. These Aboriginal peoples have low blood pressure, they live longer, they have a lower incidence of heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, and cancer. Imagine if you could do that by just upping your chocolate intake. In the case of chocolate, they suspect compounds called flavonols. These are found in cocoa as well as tea, berries, red wine. We think they're the ones that deserve much of the credit. Flavonols appear to increase the body's production of nitric oxide, a compound that dilates veins and arteries so blood flows more easily and efficiently, and that includes the brain, which may explain chocolate's potential effects on the mood. I wish my wife liked chocolate. Flavonoids also keep red blood cells from becoming dangerously sticky and seem to increase insulin sensitivity, improving your ability to use that hormone. And just to sort of show this, there's this large collection of Cochrane database systemic reviews, which is really well respected for its summaries of medical research. And they found that an average dose of 670 milligrams of chocolate, which is about a large bar, reduced blood pressure by about 4 points in people who have hypertension. So why dark chocolate? Well, it's because white chocolate does not contain flavonoids or flavonoids. But you've heard about flavonoids before, and yes, you can get that from teas or fruits or vegetables, but let's just be honest. Wouldn't you rather get it from chocolate? I mean, dark chocolate ice cream? And you may have even heard about the chocolate con, where a science writer did an actual experiment with 15 people who were given chocolate in their diet. They measured a bunch of variables and they found that weight loss was positive. So why is that a bad thing? Well, there's 2 issues. First, the study involved too few people to be significant at all, and few journals would even accept a study with less than 30 people. Second, they looked at all variables from sleeping better to blood pressure, and when you look at all those variables, you're bound to find something that's going to change and show up, and they did. In this case, it happened to be weight loss. They then published their results in a non-academic journal, or one that we call a pay-to-publish journal. If you pay this journal, they will publish it if they think it's at all interesting. They then floated a press release to all the major newspapers, and you probably saw the story. It's real. No, not really. Not that it was faked, but here are the problems. First, there were too few people in the study. If you have few people in a study, you're going to find something. And secondly, none of the science journalists actually looked at the study and commented that, wow, this is 15 people. Wow, this is over a few weeks. Because, as you may know, a person's weight can vary by as much as 5 pounds in the day. You just have to hit it right, and you'll find weight loss. Oddly, none of the science journalists checked the study. Back to the Kuna Indians. When dealing with the specific groups of people, especially isolated groups, you have to wonder if the real issue is that people didn't look. Let me give you 2 examples. The Pima Indians in Arizona have the highest rate of diabetes in the world. But when I arrived as a newly minted surgeon in 1991, I was told they had one of the lowest incidences of heart disease. Now, this made no sense to me. How can you have the highest incidence of diabetes, but the lowest incidence of heart disease? The answer? They never looked. They based that conclusions upon death certificates. And when death certificates didn't come back as having heart disease, they made the assumption that heart disease wasn't present. They were so excited by this conclusion of the magic Pima Indian heart that they formed a study called the Strong Heart Study to study the hearts and what that difference might be. Once they started looking, though, they discovered what most of us would suspect. The Pimas had a lot of heart disease and a lot of vascular disease. Why not mention on death certificates? Well, because if someone died and they didn't know why, it was just called from natural causes. A more famous example of this is something called the China Study. You may have heard of that. It was an entire book written about how in rural China they eat the same thing, low in meats, and they have low heart disease. Fast forward to 20 years in the future, and it's another case of where the records simply were not looked at. Now China notes it has higher rates of heart disease in those villages who still eat their traditional diet. Well, a group finally did go to study the Kuna Nation, and they indeed do live longer, with less issues than their neighbors. And they do drink, on average, 5 cups of chocolate a day, and they do have lower blood pressure and heart disease and stroke and cancer, but they really couldn't tell if it was the chocolate or the genes. And the conclusion of the group who spent months looking at these people? No clue. One final note. You are going to hear different people say the best chocolate in the world is in Europe and not in the United States. To that, bollocks. We have some fine artisanal chocolate in the United States from people who are making great chocolate, maybe not from the major chocolate manufacturers, but certainly artisanal chocolate. Will that dark chocolate help you live longer, have less cancer, have less strokes, and less heart disease? I don't know. But on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 is a food con and 5 is science, chocolate is weight loss? That's a pure food con. Chocolate is medicine? It might be a 2.5. Thank you for listening to this episode of Culinary Medicine with me, Dr. Terry Simpson. While I am a doctor, I am not your doctor, and you should always seek the advice of a trusted, licensed, Western medical provider with experience in your particular condition or concern before taking any actions. If you are my patient, then you should be eating a balanced diet, and a little chocolate won't hurt you. Culinary Medicine is a part of the Your Doctor's Orders network, and you can find even more information about the Kuna Indians and chocolate in a detailed article posted on yourdoctorsorders.com. This podcast is not only produced and distributed by our friends at Simpler Media, but we're actually recorded in their beautiful soundproof studios. My executive producer is the talented and non-chocolate loving producer girl from Producer Girl Productions. You can follow me on Twitter where I'm at Dr. Terry Simpson. That's at Dr. Terry Simpson. And I'll be back next time when we'll have another conversation about food as medicine or unveil another food con. Until next time, don't drink the water. Have some hot chocolate. So, Ebo, do you like chocolate? How's your blood pressure? We ought to do a month-long beer and chocolate study.
wasn't prepared to answer all these questions, but, yeah, sure, man. Anything in the name of science, right?